Hey Aquarius, welcome to your timeless reading. I trust that this will find you at the time and place you most need it. As always, use your discernment when listening to tarot readings, because you know your life and your situation the best out of anyone. This is only meant to provide confirmation or food for thought if it resonates with you. I'm pulling from the Rider-Waite Tarot. Oh boy. Okay. Okay. And then I'm also pulling from my Iris Oracle. And I might sip some tea while I'm at it. Tea. Whoops. Okay. Good enough, if you ask me. Okay, we got the Six of Cups upright. Ten of Swords. We're giving it to you reversed. Although it kind of flew all over the place. The Emperor. Six of Swords. Giving it to you in reverse. Nine of Swords. Swords action here. Justice. Judgment in reverse. And the Three of Swords in reverse. So, you got like all the worst cards, but also they're in reverse. Mostly, so it seems, and worse cards, you know, they're all medicine, they're all beautiful cards, blah blah blah, you know, that stuff. I mean, it is important to not demonize the cards. It's important to understand what each facet of our lives is trying to communicate to us and what wants to be worked through. That's all very important stuff, so we'll do it. Wow, body is a long card. Okay, what is this thing, this vessel that we are in? Ugh, it brings a whole other complication. Through this deck, there are lots of cards to help us understand our esoteric connections, but whether we like it or not, gravity still keeps our feet on the earth in our fragile bodies. Injuries, sickness, our bodies are not as resilient as our spirits. We are born with instinctive fear to protect our bodies, to keep us alive, and the information we receive elevates the fear. Then, in addition to our fear, we are taught to hate our bodies and the bodies of other people, created as a dichotomy in which we have ourselves, who we feel are our inner selves, and our physical body, which we may feel disconnected from, or, whether aware or not, do not believe it belongs to us. I wish I could say I found a way to overcome this struggle myself, says the author of this booklet, but I haven't. I'm going to try, though, and maybe you can too. This is my body. It is the house of my sacred spirit, my ultimate power, and this body is going to get me where I need to be to shower the world with my vision and abundance of love. So the body should be honored, even in the face of those trying to disrespect it and take ownership over it. This body is mine and only mine. This body is strong. This body is mine. Wow. Well, that is a pretty big message, I think, to sit with right now, Aquarius. Particularly, I'm thinking about you being an air sign, and the swords are the suit of air, right? Like, we gotta talk about these. Let's just talk about the ones that came up that are, like, kind of the quote-unquote scary cards, or hard cards, or, like, overwhelming cards. Swords. We got the 9 and the 10 of swords, and we also got the 3 of swords. I like to see them in reverse, because I feel like that softens it a little bit, and I think it invites us into the fact that we're actually really going through a healing process. So, body, I think particularly this is about us. Maybe somatic healing is in order, probably breath work. I should go do breath work myself, honestly, and I can link below. The Spiritual Gaze, one of my favorite spiritual people, they just do really great work across the board, and they do breathwork circles. So I think breathwork is definitely something that could be good right now, and I say that because, especially you being an air sign, it's like, okay, you're feeling all these things in your body. There's all this stuff stored up, all this kind of maybe trauma even, of just this pain or overwhelm or heartbreak, right? Anxiety, and kind of the understanding in the Ten of Swords I find to be a little more welcoming than the Three of Swords. My theories on it. The Ten of Swords is, yes, like an intense ending of a cycle, but it's like, okay, look, this guy is already dead, first of all, so that's good. And then there's the dawn of a new day right here in the horizon. So there are the beginnings that are going to come after this really difficult, tense period. And also, you know, this card, it's like there was a battle, there was a war, and now that there's a conclusion to that. And it might not always be the conclusion that we wanted, but it's still like, okay, we can kind of let this chapter go. And so, yeah, so it feels like Aquarius, like kind of what I'm picking up for you is that you've been through the shit, right? Like, you maybe have been through some heartbreak, some trauma, some like, this feels like past energy to me with it being in reverse of like kind of the worst case scenario has already come true maybe. And you've been having to since then grapple with the anxiety that comes up with having had something really scary happen and kind of like the lack of feeling of safety, like kind of like the, you know, some of the illusions that were maybe keeping us going have been shattered. And especially if, like, what we're experiencing is bodily trauma. Like, I know I have experienced bodily trauma in my life. And it's, like, that whole feeling of disconnect that this was talking about where it's, like, you just kind of start to get numb to everything and start to not even be aware of the ways in which you're holding on to some of this pain because you're just kind of living with it. Kind of like the way I think some people adjust to chronic illnesses where it's just, like, the low hum of something being wrong just becomes so normal that you almost kind of zone it out and forget that there's something wrong, even though really what we're seeking is a deeper healing of that situation so we can just live free and without it. Kind of thinking about that with justice right here. So, yes. I think too, so it's like, okay, here's what I'm getting, Aquarius. You've experienced some shit. And it's been not good. Your body is hanging on to it. But you're used to living with it. You've kind of normalized this pain to some extent. And it's past pain, but it's pain that you haven't completely purged. That you're not, like, able to fully heal for whatever reason. Maybe because of the environment you're in. Or maybe because of just the ways you're feeling disconnected. And kind of maybe even, afraid to trust your own body or to be in your own body or to listen to your body because of just the immense amount of stuff that's being stored. It's like living on autopilot mode is a lot less scary than addressing it. And then this is, to me, those fears of, like, going there, right? Of healing it. Like, maybe sometimes we avoid our own healing because we're like, oh God, what is going to come up, you know, or I'm okay, like, this is fine. It's not ideal, and I know it's not ideal, but the alternative of moving forward, Six of Swords, moving past some of these hurts and kind of moving on from, like, choppy waters towards smoother, like, this whole passage thing has a lot of intense energy with it. Like, a reader I listened to, Karen Rontowski, talked about this as being kind of like a death energy, like this is the river Styx, right? And I mean, I've certainly had this card kind of come up at an intense time in my life where there was this, like, Ten of Swords and this heartbreak, like this severe ending that, like, brought on a lot of, like, sadness and grief and staying up late at night and that Nine of Swords vibe. But it's like the moving on is actually the way to heal. It's like moving away from the pain, kind of moving past it, which is hard sometimes because maybe we're attached to the idea that, like, we can six of cups with this, I get, like, the past, right? Like, when something bad has happened in the past, we can kind of get stuck there in that moment. Like, a lot of people say that about trauma, like, if you experience trauma when you're 19 and now you're, like, in your 40s, there's a part of you that's still kind of operating from a 19-year-old mindset because you never really got to progress. And so that's what I'm getting with the Six of Swords is, like, the universe is kind of like, hey, Aquarius, it's time. Like, let's progress. Let's move to the next step. Like, let's move past this trauma. Let's feel this trauma and integrate it and heal it and move past the past and move forward. But you're kind of like, oh my God, so much, right? Like, even though I want to reconcile with the end of this cycle and the past and kind of move forward in my life and just kind of feel it in my body so that I can kind of claim this sense of justice, which I will get to, it's just a lot. And it like might be making you feel anxious. And I would also say, Aquarius, something else I'm getting, and I'm totally channeling this one. This one's like, I'm just saying words and they're coming through. So anyway, I was going to say that like with anxiety, maybe you are feeling anxious about things that are not the thing you're actually anxious about. An example I can give is I'm really afraid of flying these days. I didn't used to be, but recently my fear attaches to that idea, and it gets really intense in my head. The thing is, with anxiety and fear, there's technically always something we could fear or be afraid of, and some of the things we maybe should be afraid of, we can't even anticipate because we don't know that it's coming. So it's like, I guess I'm talking about how the way fear plays out in our minds is that the idea attaches itself to something, and then that starts to feel very real, even though that in and of itself is probably an illusion. An example is, I live in California. I like to knock on wood. I live in California, and this woman from the East Coast said to me, like, oh, aren't you afraid of earthquakes? And I was like, no. And I'm like, but you're flying home. Like, aren't you afraid to fly home? And she's like, no. I'm like, well, I'm really afraid of flying home. Point being, it's like the things that we're afraid of are kind of immaterial to just the emotion of fear itself and the fact that it attaches itself to things to play itself out and so that we can feel it. And so there might be things in your life, Aquarius, that you're feeling really anxious about, that there's no need to feel anxious about it, but it's because the anxiety is surfacing from maybe the root pain, which is like maybe some past trauma that hasn't been totally integrated or felt into the body. And obviously that's a heavy process. And so it's like kind of just like you're kind of just keeping yourself stuck in second gear, like the Friends song. I needed tea. Okay, let's move on. Because the next part of your reading feels like this is the what to do about all of the stuff I just said. Alchemy, the Emperor, Justice, and Judgment in reverse. Alchemy. Let's read Alchemy. 66. Your hands have power to make gold, to create universal elixir. Have faith in your ability to perform transmutation. You can build the impossible. You can take anything by your touch, by your work, eliminate impurities, and transform its appearance. You are magic. Great. So, and then we got Justice, and we got the Emperor, and we got Judgment in reverse. So I kind of feel like, basically, Aquarius, there's this kind of call for you to step up into your authority. And this is Aries energy. And I'm thinking to relate back to the body. I was talking about breath work. There's somatic healing. There's all kinds of things you can do. There's maybe like eating different foods, kind of experimenting with your diet. There's exercise. There's going to a spa, getting a massage. I think, Aquarius, if you want to, you're invited to start taking care of your physical body in new ways and doing things to treat it as if it is like a second version of yourself. Kind of, in a weird way, what I'm getting with alchemy is almost kind of understanding that you have multiple selves living within you. And part of yourself is your mental mind, which usually dominates, especially if you're an Aquarius, especially if you got all these swords in your reading. And then there is your body, which contains your heart and your gut and all these different parts. There's a book called The Body Keeps Score, and I haven't actually read it. But I think that book... Well, anyway, my friend who recommended that book also recommended an exercise where you like write a letter to like a part of your body. and you're like, hey, what's going on with you? And then you just kind of sit and close your eyes and listen for an intuitive message about what that part of your body is trying to communicate to you. If that resonates with you, go for it. That's what I'm getting with alchemy. And with Emperor, I feel like it's giving your body a little bit more permission to be an active participant in your life and to communicate with your body more directly. I think that is you stepping up into your own power, is you kind of reclaiming all parts of yourself, becoming unnumb from those parts of yourself that you were shutting down or not choosing to feel. And that might mean, indeed, with like especially judgment in reverse, I think that might mean feeling some of that pain that I was talking about previously. But it's feeling it to heal it, and it's feeling it to address it. Like, I need desperately to go to the dentist, frankly, and that's a little bit intimidating and scary because it's been a while since I've been. You know, maybe I have a cavity. Maybe if I go, I'm going to have to do something really painful, and I don't want to do that. And like, even if it's not painful, just having someone scrape on your teeth is ugh. But it's my health. It's important. It's part of my body. It's something I'm going to need to address personally. That's a good example of this judgment energy, is kind of resisting that reckoning of like having to go face the thing you need to go face because you know it'll be in your best interests. It'll be alchemy. It'll be kind of a cleanse or an opportunity to heal and step into authority and kind of like just a healthier, more embodied sense of yourself, like where you're really like kind of able to take charge of your own life because you have all of you at your disposal, is what I'm getting with that. And then, you know, also with justice, I think part of what I want to talk about with justice, and I'm going to sip some tea while I do it. Okay. Justice. I think sometimes we get in that numb state because it feels like there's really no way to address it. There's no way to make things right. I've had bad things happen to me, and the people who did those bad things did not get directly punished for those things. They probably don't even know they did a bad thing, even though it was like really devastating and harmful to me, right? That has happened in my life. And it can be hard to live with that knowledge of that lack of justice, right? Of that lack of the scales balancing out, of the pain that's been inflicted on us, and then the fact that bad things happen to good people, that idea, and that things don't even out, and that bad people get ahead. Just all that sense of injustice kind of compounds the pain that we feel. And maybe then we hang on to the pain unconsciously because we find power in being a victim, and the power being, well, we're the person who was wrong, so we have some sense of our own justice, our own goodness, our own, like, you know, I didn't deserve that, and so I deserve better. And I'm bringing that up because we were talking about the Six of Swords and kind of the inability to move on and all the reasons why we're kind of avoiding these alchemy moments of transmuting that pain. And I think that justice probably does have something to do with it, right? Like, maybe we hold on to the pain because it feels like the pain is what we gained from the bad situation in a weird way, right? Like, it's how we feel like we're giving justice to ourselves is by holding on to it. And I hope that makes a little bit of sense. I'm not trying to victim shame or blame. Like, I guess it's just sort of at some point we have to step into this deeper sense of justice, maybe based on the Emperor, which is like reclaiming our own lives. Like, the real justice of the situation is letting go of the pain and understanding justice on a new level, where it's like, justice is not just retribution. Justice is not just revenge, right? It's not just you did something bad to me. It's not an eye for an eye. It's not like you did something bad to me and I need you to feel how bad and evil you are and never do it again. I think we can kind of think justice is that. But I think what this like higher vibe version of justice is like, you know what? All this pain has happened to me, but I am alchemizing it. I'm facing my own kind of self-judgment moments about this. And I'm stepping up into my bodily authority, my power, the emperor. And I'm reclaiming my life and my health and my sense of well-being. And I'm understanding that these people don't have any power over me, justice. I have this sword of truth. I know what happened to me. I know where I've been. I know what I've overcome. And it has nothing to do with these other people who harmed me in the past in a way. Like, I am really beautiful and amazing and powerful because I can balance my own internal state. I can transmute things within my body, right, where I'm stronger, like kind of like how the broken bone gets stronger when it heals or whatever, that kind of thing. Like, I am healing myself and in healing myself and stepping up into my own power and really embracing myself and feeling all parts of myself so that I'm not numb anymore and I'm in my full expression and my full power. I am reclaiming that sense of justice because I have the energy and the drive and the capacity and the love and the everything, right? Like, especially masculine energy, like this yang energy of like, I can go out and get it. I can go out and get my own life and make it happen. And the best revenge is living well, they say. And that's what I'm picking up with justice, is like kind of transcending maybe a victim mentality on some level. Not to say that maybe you haven't been victimized, but it is about kind of understanding that you can let go of that person and just have them not have any power over you anymore and not matter anymore and kind of let it be in the past on some level, especially if it's been a while, right? And I do, like, an example of this that might be a little less heavily charged is like an ex-boyfriend or an ex-girlfriend where like you just kind of always had that resentment and you like never wished them well. And you just kind of like always hoped something bad was happening to them because they hurt you so much. And then now you're healing that wound within yourself and stepping up into your own power and moving on and finding maybe new partners or new like opportunities for yourself where you're really excited and jazzed. And it's like, who cares what that person's doing? They were a part of a chapter of my life. And you know, we went through some stuff, but they're kind of irrelevant at this point. I feel like with the justice, it's like the irrelevance of the past is actually the justice. Not that, you know, and use that advice with a grain of salt. There are variations of harm and abuse, and sometimes it's important, of course, that we never forget what happened and that we, honor the gravity of the situation. So it's definitely kind of a case-by-case basis, but I think the overall vibe of the message I'm getting for you, Aquarius, is just at least the notion of reclaiming your power and diminishing the power of those who held power over you in the past through your pain that you were living through, and alchemizing it by addressing it and feeling it and doing something to take care of specifically your body and heal it through your body. So that's what I've picked up for you, Aquarius. The essential message is like, you are healing, and in healing you are reclaiming your own authority, a deeper sense of being able to be the ruler, the emperor of your own life, to create your own empire. And in kind of like reclaiming your own sense of agency and authority and autonomy, you are reclaiming some sense of justice for yourself. The justice being you living your best life and kind of letting go of the past on some level, perhaps never forgetting. And maybe it's not even about forgiveness, but it is about releasing at least what it is you've been carrying in your body and kind of letting go of it and letting yourself be free of these kind of mental prisons you're kind of keeping yourself stuck in, perhaps through a fear about like kind of what happened in the past, and letting that past control you to an extent that it doesn't need to anymore. You're living in the now, not then. And this is a journey. This is really intense work that this reading is talking about. So I don't mean to, like, again, minimize it in any way or say, like, it's gonna be all complete within a month per se, but it's like, it takes as long as the healing process takes as long as it takes. This alchemy takes as long as it takes for you. And, like, even the author of this body card was like, look, I haven't totally figured out how to get totally in touch with my body in this Iris Oracle deck. So, you know, be gentle with yourself too in that regard. Like, this isn't saying to me, yeah, just like, I would not worry about adding more shame or sense of guilt on top of the situation where the whole point is to transmute and heal shame and guilt and heaviness. It's a journey. It's a journey. But I think the reading is kind of inviting you to explore the idea that you can transmute it and heal and step up into your authority and reclaim that sense of justice that maybe has felt like it was eluding you for a long time, and finding a true, really empowered version of that, which is all good. So it's like, I think the reading is just saying you can do it. You can get here to this point where you're vindicated on an internal, personal, fulfilling spiritual level where you're living your best life. And that is my reading for you, Aquarius. I love you. And like and subscribe if you like this, etc. And comment. And then I'll see you next time. Bye.